Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dear Future PharmD Talkshow, the show where you tune in to be inspired to become the best pharmacist out there in the future. Today, we have Dr. Karine Wong, who is currently a hospital pharmacist, a dessert company owner, as well as a pharmacy influencer. You might have seen her entertaining TikToks across various platforms, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today, Dr. Wong.
Hi, thank you, Ryan and the Student Network. I'm happy to be part of this podcast. Like Ryan said, yes, I I spent 20 years of my life being a hospital pharmacist in Long Beach. I'm transitioning to something different now. Now I'm working for what we call a telemedicine pharmacy concierge. It's a new startup that we're building where we collab with prescribers on site to provide pharmacy counseling. Yes, pharmacogenomics, medical massage, which is something that we do on the side. So we hire out other auxiliary personnel to do those things. So it's all part of the whole care. Like I'll do the cures reporting, calling like drug companies for like low cost drugs, things that doctors do not have time for. Doctors are loving this collaborative agreements because it gives them more time to work on patients, and that means more revenue. So that's kind of how the business model is. So it's pretty cool, very exciting to transition from clinical care to business.
Thank you, Dr. Wong, for clarifying. And what you do is definitely very interesting. Now we're going to introduce our second guest today. We also have one of our close friends, my close friend and mentor, and currently a PhD student at UCSD Skaggs School of Pharmacy. Please welcome Ms. Jenny Nguyen to the show.
Hi everyone. Like Ryan said, I'm currently a P2 at UCSD. I went to UCI with Ryan for undergrad and I graduated in 2021. I was a part of Pre-Pharmacy Society at UCI with Ryan, and there I was the fundraising chair and I was the internal vice president and I was also the president. So I got a lot of great opportunities out of that experience. And I'm currently working at UCSD Health at Jacobs Medical Center at the inpatient pharmacy as an intern. So I've gotten a lot of great experiences so far, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk to Dr. Wong about all of her exciting experiences.
All right, Jenny, let's get this started. So, Dr. Wong, would you like to first start off to introduce a little bit about your journey to pharmacy so far?
Certainly. The journey is very basic, I think. You graduate from school. I was actually one of the very first people that graduated from UOP with a 5-year degree. Like that's all I had. I don't have a bachelor's. I don't have an MBA, nothing, just a pharmacy degree. And back in 1997, that was like a thing to now be PharmDs and no longer bachelors of pharmacy. So it was kind of like a new batch, and it was an accelerated program. So mind you, I'm a very young kid, graduate from high school, go straight away to school, and OMG, graduate from the PharmD at age 22, like OMG, right? It was very challenging because I had a look of a baby, but I was also like a director at age 24, and I got no respect, no love from my team or the physicians. They thought I was an intern for a very long time, pretty much till I was age 30, okay? So, but one of the things I learned in my journey is that when you go on rotation, that is where you find your tribe. That's where you find like your love. Do you go to retail or hospital, or do you break it down to nuke farm, or do you go to industry, do you go to academia? In the rotation year, when you're out and about working next to pharmacists and in their environment, you realize, oh my gosh, I'm loving this scene. So my jam was internal medicine, working on grand rounds, presenting patients to my preceptor and the cardiology team. And it was like crazy, super intense, but for me, super fun. So when I graduated, I knew that I wanted to be like a doctor. My mom's like, hell no, because you've already spent so much money being a pharmacist, you must be a pharmacist. I was like, oh, MG, come on. Back then, pharmacy wasn't that progressive. It was very much Kaiser or CVS. That's pretty much all you were limited to. So I took it upon myself to work at a hospital. I figured the smaller the hospital, the better. And I never regretted that decision. So I've always been in smaller hospitals where I can have one-on-one with the physician, and it's just me and him, taking care of the patients on the floor. It's pretty fun. Um, so you have more autonomy, more control of the situation. You learn a lot because you're being thrown in a pack of wolves, i.e. patients and doctors, and you have to learn like right there and then. I had no residency. I had no fellowship, but man, I can learn on the job. And so fast forward 20 years, I am now transitioning out of hospital because it's time for me to kind of move on and branch my career out to something different. I am focusing more on business. So I have a company now where I make desserts for diabetics. And then I took that same skill set and now I'm helping another startup company basically work, hire pharmacists and other auxiliary personnel to work with physicians and a collaborative agreement at their clinic site. So it's pretty cool because as providers, we can bill and charge patients for our services. As long as doctor says, hey, Dr. Wong, I need to see this patient, it's good to go. I can roll in there with my clipboard, talk to the patient for 20 minutes and bill for my services. It's all good. And they'll pay for it. They'll pay for it. Because they know that pharmacy does help, especially when you have like more than like 4 or 5 drugs, right? You go about drug interactions and then there's comorbidities and blah, blah, blah. So having a pharmacist right there to kind of like wrap it up at the end of the physician's visit, super awesome. And they love it too, because they know that it saves, reduces hospitalizations and reduces complications. And doctors love it. They don't want to see patients come back again with the same problems. Like today, they'll prescribe for, let's say, Lipitor, and then a week later, patient complains of muscle pain or rhabdo, and they don't know what to do with it. So I take care of that. So I am the person that goes, oh no, doctor, I got it. I'll talk to the patient, tell them to hold the med for 7 days, watch how it goes, make sure that we watch out for brown colored urine. Again, those are signs, symptoms of rhabdo, right? So I get to be part of that. And the doctor doesn't worry about it at all. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell, like where I am now, how I started.
Yeah, that definitely sounds great. It sounds like what you're doing is very determined, and like it sounds very great in terms of like advancing next level career of practice in pharmacy. And I really enjoy listening to that. Now let's move on to Jenny. Would you just like to share a little bit about your story? I know I've previously covered your story in another project that I've run, but just a reminder to the audience out there, like, would you just mind to describe a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, definitely. So my journey is a lot less eventful than Dr. Wong's. I think Dr. Wong has had an amazing journey and all these experiences. I hope I get to have a lot of experiences myself as well. But for me, I would say my journey in pharmacy didn't really start until I started undergraduate school, so at UCI. When I started school, I joined the pharmaceutical sciences major at UCI, but I didn't do that necessarily with the intention of going to pharmacy school because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just joined the major because it seemed like interesting to me, like moderately interesting. And I thought, hey, if I don't like it, I can always change my major. So I joined the pharm sci major at UCI, and then I joined all these organizations so I could learn more about pharmacy to see if it was something I actually wanted to pursue. And when I joined PPS, I learned a lot, or Pre Pharmacy Society, in case anyone doesn't know what PPS is. I learned a lot about things that the pharmacist can do because we have so many guest speakers that come to our meetings. And a lot of the time I would go to the meetings, maybe sometimes I'd be like, oh, that's not something I want to do. But a lot of the time I would say I could totally see myself doing that. And I think that I just said that so many times in my head that I felt like this is something I did want to do. And I thought it would be fun for me to kind of figure out what I actually wanted to do out of all of the options that are available in the field of pharmacy. So I'd say PPS really helped me with that. And I got experience working as a pharmacy technician in undergraduate school to kind of not solidify per se, but get more experience actually working in the field. So I worked as a technician at an independent pharmacy for 3.5 years or so during my undergraduate career. And then I also got to work for a vaccine clinic, the UCI vaccine clinic, when COVID first came around as a technician. And I really loved that as well. Very different settings. And now I work as an intern at an inpatient pharmacy, like I said earlier, at UCSD Health at Jacobs Medical Center. So that's really interesting, very different experience. And I also got to go on rotations. So I worked at, or I didn't work, I rotated at Walgreens and Rite Aid at the pharmacies for my IPPs. And that was also very different from all the experiences that I've had so far. So it's really good for me to kind of go around and see what I like and what I don't like. I know before at the previous podcast, I talked about what I might be interested in. And I mentioned like maybe psychiatry or like mental health or reproductive health. I think those things are all very interesting to me still, but I think I'm having trouble finding pharmacists that work in these areas. So I think that's something I still want to explore.
Those are really niche areas. To tell you, like mental health, I would steer clear of that one because it's pretty depressing. Ha 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 ha. A lot of the patients there will come to you with like all their childhood horror stories and why they're bipolar today and why they're depressed. And it's almost like you have to have a skin of stone to work with those patients. I mean, don't get me wrong, we do need pharmacists to help with behavioral health patients, and mental health is on the rise, but watch out, Jenny. You gotta be like strong, like armor, and not let those stories get to you. It's pretty sad. We had a BHU in our unit, and when I counsel patients, oh my gosh, I had to take a shot of like liquor afterwards because I was like, oh, it's just so traumatic, and you understood why they ended up where they ended up. You know, reproductive health is a very niche thing. The reason why you don't see any pharmacists in it is because it's such a small market. The only way you'd actually meet someone is if you become that person. Did you not? You'd have to be like the first reproductive pharmacist and OC to make that happen. And it's totally doable. Like you can totally, because there's only like a few drugs that you can recommend to give. And there's like things you recommend, like watches, you know, ovulation watches, and you know, all about the sperm, talking about the egg drop, and it's all good. You can talk about that to a patient, and that's a lot cheaper than spending $30,000 on, you know, fertility treatments. So something to think about. Definitely, that's a market that you can totally tap into.
Yeah, thank you. I do agree. It's very niche because I haven't been able to find like anyone working in those areas. So I think you're right. Like if I really wanted to do it, it is something I'd have to like maybe start for myself. But
Oh, I can call you the fertility pharmacist or the sexy pharmacist. Ha ha ha. I'll make you a t-shirt. It'd be cool. You know, one thing I learned about like pharmacy is like where you are, you're probably like what, 20 years like my junior, right? It's like back where you are in school, I'm thinking all I had to look for was working at dispensing, count by fives, you know, and do TARs and part authorizations, right? That's all you saw because that's all that was on the horizon. But actually now in 2022, 23, the horizon is much lower. It's much more broader. If you just look over the hill, OMG, you'll see there's so many opportunities for you. So fast forward 3 years from now, Jenny, you could totally do that. Get a general residency at, let's say, UC Davis, or not UCI or UCSD, and do a fellowship in reproductive health and open your own clinic in OC. You know, people have money here. Go to Laguna Hills, branch out Laguna Gal, and be that fertility pharmacist. You'll be the person that people go to when they don't want to spend $30,000 on IVF. You know what I'm saying? They pay cash only, so you don't deal with insurances. And if they get pregnant, they'll refer you. So that's like a money maker right there. So you got to think, hey, I could take my clinical skills and add some business skills, and I don't work for anyone but myself. Call your own shots. That's something that I didn't learn in school. I learned that now that I have my own business, but I kind of wish that we learned that in school, because now you think, I'm not just stuck at Kaiser. I'm not just stuck at CVS, or in your case, at the health center or the inpatient pharmacy, you know? There is more to life than that.
Yeah, it would be a very big task for me to tackle that, but I think if I really want to do it, it would be a very interesting project.
Yes. Another thing I would say is, you know, a lot of pharmacists I used to have, they have like this dream job of being like an academic, you know, or industry, you know, and that's all they know. Actually, not true. You can have that dream job at year 5, you know, like for you, let's suppose you want to be Kaiser pharmacist at Amcare, okay, for the first 5 years. Then you'll feel, hey, I'm kind of tired of this. I want to switch it out to that dream job of being a reproductive pharmacist. You could hold that, do that between year 5 and year 10. And then now the point, you'll have kids of your own, your life will change, and you probably want something different. So you see how like every phase in your life, you need to think about how your career will change too. So you have to be dynamic with your career. You cannot just be, I will just be Kaiser pharmacist for the rest of my life and retire with a nice pension. Yeah, those days are long gone. If you want to be happy, you got to move with the roll with the punches. You know, you can't work at, you know, inpatient pharmacy graveyard shift when you have like 2 little kids at home, you know, who need you during the daytime, right? So it's kind of like when I graduated, I did graveyard shift for 2 years, but I was single, and I would party nighttime, so it was great. You do graveyard shift, you club, you sleep all morning. It worked out well, but when you have kids, I couldn't do the night shift thing anymore. So just saying that the career pharmacist is always ever changing, it's always evolving. So it's very exciting. That's why I love it. You and I know the same things, or you will eventually know the same things I do, but the difference is what moves you, what spins your beanie, you know, like what fits your schedule. So you may think reproductive pharmacy is a cool thing. Maybe not now, maybe like in 5, 6 years when you are a mom, when you've already gone through the struggles, then you're like, I can apply that to my own practice, and I'll be your first investor.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess we talked a lot. We discussed a lot about different career options and stuff. And I also know that Dr. Wong, you do some teaching, right? So if it's possible, like you can describe a little about what makes teaching so unique for you, as well as like was there any memorable experience in you with in your interaction with the students?
Oh, I have so many. That's why I love doing what I'm doing. You have no idea. A lot of pharmacists don't like to teach because it's, you know, obviously time away from a job, and they don't feel comfortable teaching what they think they know. I'm not that way. I like to see happens is like they morph into this pharmacist like in 6 weeks. I like, for example, like I'll have students come in and not know how to work up CHF, or not understand what's considered a poor glucose control, you know. And then when they leave my rotation in 6 weeks, they got that dialed down. They know all the goals. They can recite the ADA guidelines and what the goal LDL, blood pressure, and target A1C for patients, and what's a good medication to be on someone who is, let's say, trying to lose weight and has A1C of like 10%. You know, it's like, oh gosh, I was part of that. That's why I enjoy it overall. And yes, there's always stories. I guess the best stories I always have is when the students come back the next day, and I said, "How was your day?" And they're like, "So tired, so tired." They're exhausted. They come home and sleep because I make them work, and it's not just like silly stuff. You know, they run the codes with me, right? Or if there's a disaster in the pharmacy, they're doing triage with me, or you know, whatever I do, you do. I don't make up stuff. I don't have time for that. So they know that when they're doing something at the hospital, they are making a difference. They're doing it because it's an assignment. It's due tomorrow. There's a P&T minutes. I need you to do a graph for me or something. So that's why I enjoy what I do. In terms of stories, yeah, a lot of the students tell me how they save patients, like, what's the word? From their ADR. You know, like classic stories when I had a student who saw a patient had orthostatic hypotension, couldn't figure out why. I said, look at the meds. Patient was on Flomax, 0.8 milligrams. I'm sure Jenny will know, wait a minute, that's a little high, right? Well, you take this medication at that dose, which is super high in the morning, you're gonna get dizzy, okay? So Amir, he like caught it, and I said, what do you do now? He said, I don't know, I think I gotta talk to the doctor. And he was about to call him. No, don't call. You run up there, you find that doctor, you tell him what you know, girl, you go. And he was very proud. He did it. He said, I think that the Fulmax is such a high dose. It should be given at nighttime to avoid the orthostatic hypotension. So the next few days, I had Amir go up to the patient and see how he's doing. Ta-da! No more dizziness, no more orthostatic hypotension. PT was like, this guy can walk. He is not falling over. And Amir, always remember that as his moments. Like he was always retail bound, but he's like, that's the best moment in his life ever, because without him, he would not have caught that. And that patient would continue having vertigo because the doctors are working up like vestibular disturbances and weird stuff, right? It's like, dude, it's just a drug. But no one caught it, but he caught it. Today, he is now a manager at like CVS. And I saw him actually at a pharmacy one time. And it's pretty cool. He's still in retail, but he always goes, I remember that patient and how I made a difference. So that's why I do what I do. Because students come out of my rotation going, I made a difference in someone's life. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's so great experience, and I love your passion towards teaching the next generation of pharmacists. Jenny, do you have anything to add on?
I don't think I really have anything to add. I think teaching is very I think it takes a lot of skill. I tried peer tutoring at UCI, and I think that is something that required a lot of time and effort on my part. And I think I really value the professors that we have at UCSD because they really do, they really are experts in what they do. And I think that they definitely have a big impact on the students at our school.
Yeah, a lot of the times, like, I guess when the reason I can do what I do is because it's like, I think that students give a lot of like fresh air to a practice, you know? So when I ask them about um, Diprovan, right? They go, oh yeah, they know it's a milk, that makes you sleepy, and they kind of know what they know from school. And I remember one time the student said, did you know that once you open it, it expires within 24 hours? I said, oh, really? I always thought it was like 3 days. Sure enough, he was right. And we changed the policy because of him. So now we change the tubing and the Diprovan, which is propofol, every 24 hours to reduce contamination because there's no preservatives in it. And I just was kicking myself in the head for missing it. Because sometimes when you spend too much time in your cubicle for 20 years, you kind of like don't read up on what's new with Diprovan, right? You just kind of figure it's the same. But I guess there were some changes that he just learned from school and just said, hey, why is that given every 3 days? Like, oh, gotta change the tubing. So I love that students can they have value to any practice site. Unfortunately, preceptors don't see that. And if they do, then they would bring on more students. So basically every student has value, even though like Jenny, right now you're working, you're like, oh, I'm just, counting my five. No, you're adding value. You're doing something, you're freeing up the pharmacist's time, and the pharmacists have more time for you to teach them all about what they know. So it's kind of like it's a tit for tat kind of thing. Like you help me, I help you kind of thing. That's what a good preceptor should do for you at least.
All right, that sounds great to hear. Now let's move on to another topic that of your interest, Dr. Wong, is that your dessert shop or dessert company. How do you came up with opening of something that's so changing? And some might say it might be indicated with your profession as a pharmacist. But tell us about what your thought is when you first started this and how you want to deliver these healthy desserts to people.
It started in the hospital. They switched, they started moving me, the board, the administrators decided, hey, Karine, it's time for you to go on the floors and counsel patients. Oh, fun. But, it's really hard to counsel a patient on diabetes when they just got diagnosed. The A1C is like, 11%, double digits, and they get the package, right? They get the glucometer, the AccuCheck, the syringes, all 9 yards, and a little vial of NPH, whatever. I didn't mind doing it, but trust me, at some point, have you ever like talked to someone and realized they're no longer listening? Like they're just nodding their head, and you're like, are you even paying attention to me, Senora? I know what you're saying, says this patient, but I tell you, like I will eat my chulupa, my burrito, my horchata because I like it. So if you can tell me something I can have that won't affect my blood sugar, I eat it. And I kid you not, I didn't know. Now this is like 2007 or so, and I was like, oh gosh, if I can't tell a patient what to eat, how can I expect the A1C to go down? So I went to my dietitians, my doctors, and I asked the same question: what do you tell patients to eat to lower their A1C to help their sugar control? Eat kale, eat quinoa, eat vegetables, eat oats, blah blah blah. Okay, that tastes crap. That stuff does not taste good. You don't even eat that. And they're noshing on like Twinkies and donuts in the cafeteria. So it's like you're saying it, but you're not practicing it. How do you expect Mr. Gonzalez to do the same thing and go home with that? Well, guess what? That same patient came back a month later. A1 still unchanged, so like 11%. And now we're talking about amputating his other leg. Okay, it's just like really bad neuropathy, gangrene toes. It's like, oh my gosh, he just did not care. So at that point, I realized if I could take time off, I need to find a way to help these patients. So honestly, we can eat really well in the beginning of the day, right? You eat oatmeal, you eat cereal, you eat like really light, almost keto, almost low carb. And then around 10 p.m. at nighttime, you start eating all things bad because you're so tired. You feel you deserve it. And you eat your desserts and a whole bunch of like carby stuff, right? Well, that's where the epiphany hit me. If I can help patients, why not go to the source of the problems, the sugar inside desserts? So instead of making a sugar-free like donut or a brownie, everyone's done that. And it's not delicious. It's kind of awful because they use a lot of erythritol or sucralose, and it's not good, as you know. So I created a panna cotta, which is an Italian dessert, similar to like flan or a lot of the custard-like puddings in most cultures. But I use coconut cream instead, and you lay it over real fruit. And I use agave. So agave, has a low GI index, so you don't get that postprandial spike afterwards. I'm sure Jenny's like, oh my God, right? So after diabetics, you can't have a postprandial spike above 180, right? Otherwise, you get problems. And I started to use agave, a little bit of stevia, and protein enrich it. So it's more a yogurt dessert type thing. It was pretty good. It's still doing really well right now. I have 4 flavors and I sell it every week at the farmer's market, sorry. So my original premise was to provide diabetics, which is a lot, right? I'm sure you know someone or your mom or dad or grandparents or grandparents' friend that have diabetes, right? And they don't eat well. And that's not their fault. It's like they're raised on rice, jowl, noodles, spaghetti. They're raised on that. So it's really hard to transition out of that. So when you provide a dessert like mine, it's like, wow, it's familiar. It's like jeh. It's like, soybean pudding. It's like flan. So it's familiar. And when they're eating it, it's like, oh, I can eat this. It's good. It's not overly sweet. I can enjoy it. And that's where the benefit's seen. It's like they're not eating something weird like kale or quinoa where they're not familiar with it. They're familiar with it. The best part is that I see the A1C go down. I see patients who like subscribe to me every month. They go, like, A1C went down like 1 point. Good for you. Is it my dessert that did it? No, but it's a lifestyle. It's like they have my dessert called My Guiltless Treats. They're eating better. They're working out. So what I try to do is not sell just a product. I sell a lifestyle. I sell like the message behind the Guiltless Treats. And I need to tell people, if you don't like flan or my panna cotta, it's okay. Just work out, walk 20 minutes a day. If you're gonna eat a pizza, just go use a thin crust instead of full crust, or use vegetables instead of like meat. There are different ways to alter your diet without having to alter a diet to a point where you can't even eat it. Like you don't want to eat it. So at the end of the day, you want to enjoy your life, you want to eat it. So, for example, I have a patient right now who's an alcoholic. Okay. Doctor says no more alcohol for him. And he's like miserable. He's literally like depressed, better thrive. So you know what I did? I told him about this new drink. It's a Taiwanese beer called lychee beer, has 3% alcohol. It has nothing mouthwash has more alcohol than this beer, okay? And he's like, this is like the best thing ever. And he only drinks one little can a day. It's like for Taiwanese people, it's like small little can. It's really pretty, lychee flavor. But my whole point is that I'm giving him a little bit of the beer to enjoy his life. And now he's gaining weight, he's happier. And isn't that the goal, right? To make them happy and not having to think about their depression, their diabetes, their heart attack. I mean, come on, like you want them to live. What about the diet later on? Let's get them to like want to enjoy life again. So that's the whole thing about what I do with my customers. It's like, be my customer, not my patient. Stay my customer. So eat my desserts, work out. You want to enjoy life, and there's so many different ways of doing it without having to stick to a Mediterranean diet. By the way, Jenny will tell you it's super hard to tell an Asian person to go on a Mediterranean diet or a low carb or a DASH diet. They're like, what? What that? It's not going to work. And if that doesn't work, you're back to square one.
So, uh, we're about to run out of time on our show, so unfortunately, we're gonna cover much content that we has wanted to. But to conclude the episode, Dr. Wong, any words of advice for the pharmacy students who are watching?
Yeah, I do. For those who are listening and watching, and you're going through your first or second year of school, don't give up. It may be boring for a little bit. I know, like in all my classes, not everything was fun. Okay, I'll give you that. There were some that were just super boring, like pharmacy law, kinetics. That's not fun. But that's okay. Just let it pass. It'll pass, right? Get through your grades. I don't care if you get an A or B. It really doesn't matter. Just pass the test, okay? At the end of the day, you just want that degree in your hand. No one really cares if you graduate top of your class. In fact, if you put it on your resume, I'm going to delete it. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't care if you graduate with 3.845 GPA. It's all fluff, okay? I just want to know if you can PharmD or not. Are you licensed in California or in the other 50 states? That's all I care about. So kind of go with school thinking it's not that big deal. It's much more important for you at this point to look at the experiences. Like Jenny explained so many experiences, and she's going to be, I tell you, not, Jenny's going to be awesome because she's well-rounded. She's had so much experience, and there are different aspects of pharmacy, which is really good because it's like dating. She knows exactly what she wants and what she doesn't want. Like, no, that one maybe, okay? So that's exactly what you're doing. So when you do rotations or internship, IPPs, right? Go in there not thinking, oh, I just have to get an A. And no. We don't give A's. We just pass you or no pass you. What you want to see is, do you see yourself here in this environment? Do you see yourself walking around the corridors, doing grand rounds, or running to a cold blue with Dr. Wong, or doing vaccines like with Jenny at the clinic? Do you see yourself doing that? And if you can go home and think, that's a pretty good job, I like that, then when you graduate, you have a super good idea of where you want to apply to and where you want to start your career at. That's my best advice for those who are listening.
Thank you so much. Jenny, do you have any add-ons to this?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I can't give too much advice because I'm in pharmacy school myself, but I definitely think it's really good to get experience in whatever field you want to go to, whether it's pharmacy or not. You know, you always want to know and have experience before you jump into anything, and you want to know that you want to do it for sure. So always take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you. I think I said this in the last podcast too. That's always my tip of advice. Like, take advantage of the opportunities given to you, and you never know like where it's going to take you.
Well, sounds great. Thank you both of you for coming up to the show. And I know it's not an ideal situation in terms of the recording, the technical side of things, but I really, really appreciate you guys for coming up. And Dr. Wong, we're looking forward to seeing you on more social media and make a great impact to the next generation of pharmacists. For Jenny, thank you for coming up and sharing your thoughts as well. And I'm looking forward to your continuous journey. So hit the like if you enjoy it, comment and share, subscribe to us for more content, and give us a follow for our social media as well as Dr. Karine Wong's platform. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next week for episode number 4.